The alien ships hung above Earth like silent mountains of metal. They stretched across the black sky, blotting out the stars one by one. People around the world stood outside their homes and watched in quiet fear. News stations broadcast the same image again and again. Massive ships shaped like blades, floating just beyond the clouds. No one knew who they were or what they wanted. Then one night, the whole planet received a message. Every screen, every radio, every phone came alive with a deep mechanical voice. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth," it said, translated into every human language. "You are under the authority of the Galactic Council. Your world will be integrated for the good of the galaxy. You will surrender all weapon technology and accept supervision. Refusal is not an option." Then the message ended. No answer was sent from Earth. The world stayed silent. At first, the aliens believed it was a communication error. They sent the message again. Still nothing. Days turned to weeks. Their ships waited in orbit. They scanned the surface for radio signals, for command centers, for a voice to respond. But all they found was silence. Earth seemed frozen in fear. Inside a dim underground base beneath the ice of Greenland, Commander Davis stood in front of a row of monitors. The flickering lights showed alien fleets moving in slow patterns above the planet. His team of officers sat at their stations, wearing cold expressions. None of them spoke. Every key press was slow and careful. They had been watching the aliens for 2 months, listening to every word, every frequency. The Galactic Council thought Earth was paralyzed. They were wrong. "Transmission check," Davis said quietly. "Secure and silent," replied Lieutenant Harris. "No outbound signals." "They still think we're ignoring them," Davis nodded. "Good. Let them think that." He looked at the old world map on the wall. Red dots marked council ships. Blue ones marked hidden human defense stations. The aliens thought they had complete control, but Earth had gone dark on purpose. Every network was shut down. Every satellite was silent. Humanity had learned long ago that the loudest noise in war was the easiest to destroy. The Galactic Council's main command ship, a massive silver construct called the Vereen, orbited above the Atlantic. Inside, Admiral Therax sat on his throne of light, surrounded by officers from 6 alien species. They stared at holograms of Earth with growing impatience. "They insult us with silence," one officer hissed. "We came with peace and authority, and they hide like animals." "They may not understand," said another. Therax waved a clawed hand. "We have given them time. Too much time. The Council demands progress. If they refuse to answer, we will make them answer." He ordered his ships to fire a warning beam on the moon, a symbolic act. Not an attack on Earth, but enough to show power. In the Greenland base, Commander Davis watched the alien communication feed. His sensors picked up the energy buildup. He knew what was coming. "They're going to hit the moon," Harris said. Davis didn't move. "Let them." Outside in space, a thick beam of white light shot from the Vereen and struck the moon's surface. Dust and rock exploded outward, forming a bright cloud. The world saw it happen through telescopes and camera feeds. For the first time in centuries, the whole human race looked up and saw their moon wounded. In the silence that followed, something changed. On the alien ship, the crew waited for a human response. They expected panic, surrender, or at least a cry for mercy. But all that came was more silence. Then one of their operators spoke in confusion. "Admiral, strange signals from the surface." "What kind of signals?" "Old electromagnetic bursts. Repeating patterns, not their usual frequencies. We cannot translate them." The screen showed dots and dashes flashing across old satellites that had not been used in decades. Unknown to the aliens, they were watching Morse code, an ancient human form of communication. Commander Davis stood over his communication officer. "Continue sending," he said. "Make sure every old satellite echoes it." The officer nodded and typed, "We hear you." The aliens didn't know what it meant. But the signal spread, bouncing from one end of orbit to another. The Galactic Council's translators tried to decode the message, but it made no sense to them. It only increased their frustration. On the Vereen, Admiral Therax clenched his claws. "Enough games! Prepare another demonstration, a strike on one of their oceans. We will see if their silence survives that. Before the order could be carried out, every console in the alien command room flickered. A sudden wave of static rolled through their systems. Then, one by one, their radar screens lit up with hundreds of red dots. "What is this?" shouted an officer. "Multiple locks detected, Admiral." "Hundreds of them, from the surface." "Identify the source." "We cannot." "They're hidden beneath electromagnetic interference." "They're targeting us!" Therax stared at the screen in disbelief. "Impossible. They have no fleet." On Earth, Commander Davis watched as data filled his monitors. The alien ships above the planet were now fully mapped, their heat signatures locked. "All units, hold fire," he said. "No shots until confirmation. Let them sweat." He looked at the satellite feed showing the Varine. Its weapon systems were online, but its sensors were blind. Every alien ship now sat under human radar locks. "Do we respond to their broadcast?" Harris asked. "No," Davis replied calmly. "We stay silent." "That's our answer." The alien admiral stared at the flashing alerts around him. He could feel unease spreading through his officers. These humans had no voice, no visible weapons, yet somehow they had turned the Council's fleet into targets without firing a shot. Then the moon's surface sensors showed movement. Something massive was rising from the far side, shapes long buried under lunar dust. At first, the Council thought they were old probes. Then more of them emerged. Angular black ships with no energy signatures, lifting off in total silence. "They are launching vessels," said the alien operator, trembling. "Dozens of them. No transponder, no communication. They move without light." Commander Davis watched the readings with cold satisfaction. "They woke up," he murmured. For decades, Earth's governments had denied the existence of the Echo Black program, a secret fleet built to defend humanity if the stars ever turned hostile. Now, the program's silent guardians were rising from their hidden hangars. The ships had no bright engines, no radio chatter. They glided through darkness like shadows of Earth itself. In orbit, alien ships adjusted their positions, ready to fire. The admiral shouted, "All fleets, defensive formation!" But before they could move, every targeting system on the Council ships flickered out. Their weapons went blind. One by one, engines stalled. "Communication relays crashed. What's happening?" cried the alien officer. "Unknown interference!" The Varine's hull lights dimmed. Power levels dropped. Then, a faint signal appeared across every alien monitor. A repeating pulse, like a heartbeat. It was human Morse again, translated by the machines into simple words. "We warned you." The admiral froze. "Warned us? When?" The message repeated once more. Then the signal vanished. On Earth, Commander Davis exhaled slowly. "They wanted a reaction," he said. "Now they have one." The alien fleet hung powerless for several minutes. Their systems scrambled. They could not fire, they could not flee. In that moment, the Galactic Council realized something that sent a chill through every command center across the stars. The silent planet was not defenseless. It was watching. High above the Earth, thousands of invisible locks remained fixed on every alien ship. Humanity did not fire a single shot. It did not send a speech or demand surrender. It only waited. The silence was not fear anymore. It was a warning, and as the moon's scar from the alien blast glowed faintly in the night, one truth settled over the galaxy. Earth was silent because it chose to be. But now the silence had begun to move. The moon's surface still glowed faintly from the alien blast. Dust floated in slow, silent waves, and hidden beneath the shadowed craters, old human machines came to life for the first time in a century. Their black metal frames unfolded like sleeping giants waking from deep slumber. They rose without lights, without heat, invisible to almost every scanner. Above Earth, the Galactic Council fleet struggled to recover from the strange interference. Systems rebooted slowly, radar screens flickered, and engine cores came back online one by one. The alien commander, Admiral Therax, stood on the bridge of the Varine with tight jaws. His officers spoke in low, uneasy voices, trying to explain what had happened. "Their planet is still transmitting old signals," said one officer. "We traced them to hundreds of orbiting objects. Most are pre-space age relics." Therax frowned. "Relics do not shut down fleets," another officer spoke. We believe the interference came from hidden emitters in the upper atmosphere. It was coordinated, precise. They targeted each of our communication bands separately. Therax turned his gaze to the dark blue sphere of Earth below. So they understand our systems. He paused for a long time, his claws clicking against the rail. They are not primitive. They are preparing. On Earth, Commander Davis stood in the dim command room of the underground base. His officers sat quietly, watching the screens. The air hummed with soft machine noise and the quiet tapping of keyboards. No one smiled. There was no celebration, only focus. Lieutenant Harris broke the silence. Satellite relays are online. Echo Black Fleet is on the far side of the moon, ready to engage. Davis nodded. No transmission. They move on schedule. A large screen showed the black human ships drifting into position behind the moon. They were unlike any public spacecraft. Each ship had been built in total secrecy, deep beneath the Earth's surface. There were no bright engines or glowing panels, only flat dark hulls that swallowed light. They moved in silence, powered by magnetic drives that left no heat trail. Do they still think we are hiding? Harris asked. They will, Davis said. That's the plan. Let them think silence means weakness. While the world above waited in confusion, the Echo Black Fleet gathered behind the moon, out of sight of the alien sensors. There were more ships than anyone had guessed. Long, spear-shaped cruisers, small, agile interceptors, and carriers that looked like floating fortresses. Each one had only one rule: do not speak. Every transmission was made through old signal pulses, invisible to modern scanners. From the alien command ship, Admiral Therax watched his scanners intently. No sign of their ships, one officer reported. But we've detected energy spikes from the moon's far side. Therax stood taller. Prepare a drone squadron. I want visuals. The drones launched from the Varine, flying swiftly across the lunar surface. For a few minutes, all seemed quiet. Then, the screens filled with static. When the image cleared, the bridge went silent. Admiral, the officer said slowly, we found them. The camera feed showed dozens of black shapes rising from the shadows, their surfaces absorbing all light. They moved in perfect silence, gliding through the darkness. The drones tried to scan them, but every signal bounced back with errors. The image froze again, and then went dark. Signal lost, said the officer. Therax stared at the black screen. How many ships? Unknown. Possibly hundreds. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. They hid a fleet on their moon, and they said nothing. On Earth, the people began to notice changes in the sky. Satellites blinked out one by one. Governments around the world remained quiet. There were no public statements, no broadcasts, no orders. The silence of the planet grew deeper. But beneath the oceans, inside mountains, and across old military tunnels, millions of humans watched their hidden screens. The world had never been so united and yet so silent. In Greenland, Commander Davis leaned over the console. Power readings from the Varine show their weapons are charging again, Harris said. They think they can frighten us, Davis replied. They still don't understand. A technician turned from his screen. Echo Black is asking for permission to engage, sir. Davis watched the radar feed. The alien fleet was slowly shifting position, forming a wide circle around Earth. He raised his hand. Not yet. They still think we are silent because we are scared. Let them move closer. Hours passed. The alien fleet moved into attack formation. Every satellite in Earth's orbit detected their plasma cannons warming up. People across the planet could see faint glowing lines in the night sky. Finally, Admiral Therax gave the order. All fleets, prepare for atmospheric demonstration. Target their oceans. One strike only. The alien ships aligned. Plasma energy gathered in their weapons. But before they could fire, their targeting systems failed again. One by one, their control panels went dark. The bridge of the Varine filled with alarms. Admiral, we're losing guidance. Power surge in systems. We're being jammed again. And then through the static came a deep, slow signal. It repeated on every frequency, every screen, every ship in the fleet. The message was short, written in old Morse code. We see you. Admiral Therax slammed his clawed hand on the console. Track it. Find where it's coming from. But the signal came from everywhere. From Earth's old satellites, from long-dead probes, even from the moon's surface. The humans had turned their entire solar system into one massive communication web. Commander Davis stood silently, watching the alien fleet twist and panic. "Now," he said quietly. Every black ship behind the moon shifted. Dozens of stealth cruisers activated railguns silently. The first shots came like invisible punches. Long tungsten rods streaked through the void, striking alien ships before they even detected them. One by one, the outer layers of the Council fleet exploded in white bursts of flame. On the Vereen, alarms screamed. "Multiple hits! We're under attack! Unknown weapons!" "Where are they firing from?" "Everywhere!" Admiral Therax watched as 3 of his ships broke apart in the darkness. He could not see the enemy. His scanners showed nothing. It was as if the humans were ghosts. "Activate full sensor sweep," he shouted. "I want their positions." But every time the alien ships tried to scan, the systems overloaded with false readings. The humans had filled space with decoy signatures. The more the aliens searched, the more confused their sensors became. Back in Greenland, Davis received the confirmation feed. Direct hits on their outer fleet. "No human losses." "Good," he said. "Pull back. We make our point. Not a massacre." The alien admiral's voice came through the communication line suddenly. "Earth," Therax said, his tone mixed with anger and disbelief. "You have attacked vessels of the Galactic Council. Identify yourselves at once." But no one answered. The line stayed open. No sound came. "Respond!" Therax roared. Still nothing. Then, from the dark space above Earth, a single human transmission broke through every alien frequency. A calm voice speaking perfect galactic common. "You came here without respect." We answered in silence. "Leave our sky." It was Commander Davis. His voice was quiet, steady, and cold. The line cut. The alien fleet froze. For the first time, they had heard a human voice, and it carried no fear. The Council ships began to retreat, regrouping near their command vessel. The aliens spoke in hurried tones, trying to make sense of what had just happened. "How can a world like this resist us?" one asked. "They've studied us," said another. "They knew our frequencies, our movement patterns, even our formation timing." Admiral Therax lowered his head. "They were listening long before we arrived." On Earth, Davis turned away from the monitors. "Status?" he asked. "Fleet standing by," Harris said. "They're retreating but calling for reinforcements." Davis nodded. "They'll be back." They always come back after the first wound. Outside, the moon's silent fleet drifted in the shadows, invisible once more. The alien ships vanished into the black of space, leaving behind burning wrecks and debris. The silence returned, but this time it was heavier, filled with meaning. For months, Earth had said nothing. Now the galaxy had finally heard its first whisper. The message was clear. The silence of Earth was not surrender. It was the sound before the storm. The wreckage of alien ships still floated above Earth like silent ghosts. Pieces of broken metal drifted slowly, glinting in the sunlight. The Galactic Council had retreated, but only for a short time. They would not forget what happened. In every alien capital across the galaxy, angry voices filled the council halls. They called Earth a dangerous world, a threat that must be erased. They said humans had no right to silence the great fleets of the council. Pride and fear mixed together, and soon a new command was given. A second invasion fleet was to be sent, 10 times larger than the first. Far away in deep space, thousands of alien ships gathered under the command of Supreme Admiral Luther, a creature with silver scales and cold yellow eyes. His ships filled the stars with their light. He stared at the image of Earth on a glowing screen and spoke to his officers. "This world humiliated us," he said. "They hide behind silence and tricks. We will burn that silence away." The officers nodded. The order was given, and the largest fleet in the history of the Council began to move toward the small blue planet. On Earth, Commander Davis already knew they were coming. The alien transmissions could not hide from human ears anymore. Deep below the ice of Greenland, his command room was full of calm activity. Officers moved between screens, checking energy levels and flight paths. The air was tense but focused. "New signals from deep space," said Lieutenant Harris. "Multiple fleets. Estimated arrival time, 48 hours. Davis looked at the map. Red dots were gathering far beyond the moon. "It's more than we expected," he said. "They're bringing everyone. What's the plan, sir?" Harris asked quietly. "We do what we always do," Davis said. "We stay calm. We stay silent. And when they get close, we show them what silence can do." In orbit, the Echo Black Fleet drifted in darkness. Their black hulls reflected nothing, and their drives were cold. Hundreds of stealth ships waited behind the moon, hidden among craters and shadows. Pilots sat ready, helmets on, waiting for the order that would come without sound. On the surface, millions of people across the world watched the sky. There were no official messages from any government. News channels had stopped broadcasting. People had grown used to the silence now. They did not panic. They simply watched and waited. When the alien armada finally arrived, it filled half the night sky. The stars disappeared behind the enormous shapes of ships. Their engines glowed white, their cannons burned bright red. The fleet surrounded the planet, forming a ring of light across the heavens. Admiral Luther's voice echoed through every speaker and communication device. "People of Earth," he said, his tone filled with cold authority, "you have attacked the Council. You have destroyed our ships. You will now surrender all defense systems and your leaders. Resistance will mean total destruction." Every alien ship waited for a reply. None came. Admiral Luther's voice grew sharp. "You will answer or we will strike." Still, Earth remained silent. Minutes passed. The alien officers shifted uneasily. The Admiral's patience broke. "Begin the attack," he said. Thousands of plasma beams lit the dark space. The first wave of energy slammed into Earth's atmosphere and vanished. A shimmering shield of light appeared for a moment, stretching across the sky like a thin mist, then disappeared again. The aliens fired again. This time, the plasma bolts curved away, deflected by invisible barriers. "Shields?" one alien shouted in confusion. "They have shields?" "Impossible! Their planet shows no energy readings." But the data did not lie. Earth was covered in an invisible defense network. The aliens had seen nothing like it. In Greenland, Commander Davis watched the energy patterns on the screen. "The mirror grid is holding," said one technician. Davis nodded. "Good, keep it cool. No unnecessary power. Let them waste their energy first." The mirror grid was humanity's last secret, an orbital layer of microsatellites built decades ago, disguised as space junk. Together, they could bend and reflect energy beams using magnetic fields. It did not stop every attack, but it bought time. The alien fleet fired again and again. Beams flashed across the sky. Cities saw the heavens glowing red and gold, but the attacks could not break through. Admiral Luther slammed his fist on the control table. "How can a single planet resist our combined firepower?" Then came the first counterattack. Without warning, several alien ships at the edge of the formation exploded in silence. No missiles were seen. No beams fired. They simply tore apart, struck by invisible forces. "Where did that come from?" shouted one officer. "Unknown." No visible ships. No radar contacts. The black human fleet had moved. From behind the moon and deep within the shadows of space, hundreds of human ships glided forward. They attacked without lights, without sound, using kinetic weapons that left no energy trace. Every shot was a steel rod moving faster than a bullet. It was simple, old, and deadly. Admiral Luther's fleets turned to respond, but their targeting systems could not lock on. The human ships kept changing patterns, moving unpredictably. Each human vessel was guided by an artificial intelligence that calculated alien flight paths seconds before they moved. Every alien attempt to aim ended with a miss. Inside his command ship, Davis gave quiet instructions. "Target their fuel cores only. Disable, don't destroy. Make them see we could kill them, but choose not to." In space, alien ships began to fail. Engines went dark. Weapons froze. The fleet's massive size became its weakness. Each ship blocked another's sight, and confusion spread through the alien ranks. On the Varine, the bridge shook as nearby ships exploded. "We are being surrounded," one alien cried. "Impossible," another shouted. "They cannot move this fast." Admiral Luther's voice thundered across the command deck. "Fire at random vectors! Flush them out!" But the human ships vanished again, disappearing into the black void. For the next hours, the battle turned into chaos. The alien fleet fired blindly into the dark, destroying their own ships by mistake. Every shot they fired gave away their position, and each time they did, a silent strike came from nowhere. The humans said nothing. They made no calls, sent no threats. Only one signal pulsed through the alien communications again and again, a simple repeating pattern. This is the cost of arrogance. By the end of the battle, half the alien fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest drifted helplessly in orbit, engines dead, power gone. Commander Davis finally spoke, his voice calm and steady. "Cease fire! They've learned enough for today." The human ships withdrew, disappearing once more behind the moon. The silence returned. On the Varine, Admiral Luther stared at the shattered remains of his once mighty armada. His face was filled with disbelief. "They fight without fear," he said. "They fight without mercy. But most of all, they fight without words." One of his officers turned to him, trembling. "Admiral, what are they? How did they know our formations, our frequencies?" Luther looked out the viewport at the quiet earth below. "They were watching us. For how long I do not know, but they waited until we struck first." That silence was not ignorance, it was patience. In Greenland, Commander Davis stood alone, looking at the stars on the monitor. "They'll send more," Harris said softly. "Yes," Davis replied. "But next time we'll be ready for something bigger." He paused and looked up at the image of Earth on the screen, the blue planet glowing softly through the dark. "They think silence is weakness," he said. "But they've never heard how loud silence can be when it answers back." The transmission lights dimmed. Around the planet, broken alien ships drifted quietly, their systems dead. No one in the galaxy could yet believe that the small world at the edge of space had defeated them again. For the Galactic Council, the war had just begun. For Earth, the silence was only getting stronger. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with noise. Alien voices shouted over one another, echoing through the vast marble hall that floated above their home star. Holograms of broken fleets hung in the air, showing the destruction near Earth. The War Council was furious and afraid. The defeat of the second invasion had shaken the entire galaxy. No one had ever imagined that a small, isolated planet could bring down the great fleets of the Council. "They cannot be allowed to exist," one of the reptilian delegates hissed. "Their silence is a weapon. They humiliated us before the eyes of every world." "They have technology we do not understand," said another, his scaled face tight with fear. "Their weapons left no light, no sound. It is not natural." The High Speaker of the Council raised his long hand. "Enough," he said. "The humans have become a threat to galactic order. If they are not destroyed now, they will rise against us all." The chamber fell silent. Then he gave the order that would change everything. "Activate the Dawnbreaker Array." Far away, deep in the void near the edge of the galaxy, the Dawnbreaker Array waited. It was a massive weapon, larger than a moon, powered by the energy of a dying star. It had only one purpose: to burn the atmosphere of a planet and leave nothing alive. For centuries it had never been used. Now, it was being prepared for Earth. When the first energy readings reached Commander Davis in Greenland, he already knew what it meant. His team worked in silence as red warnings filled their screens. Harris stood beside him, her face pale in the cold blue light. "They are bringing something big," she said quietly. "Power levels off the chart. It's not a fleet this time." Davis stared at the data. "It's a weapon. Something designed to end us in one strike. What do we do?" Harris asked. Davis spoke calmly. "We show them what comes after silence." Across the world, the hidden systems of Project Mirror came online. Hundreds of satellites that had stayed dark for years suddenly woke up, their signals pulsing in rhythm. At the same time, old listening posts on Mars, the Moon, and even the outer asteroid belts began transmitting. Within hours, Earth knew everything: the Council's plans, the coordinates of the Dawnbreaker Array, and its weak points. The Echo Black Fleet moved again. Silent ships rose from behind the moon and gathered near Jupiter. Their mission was simple: stop the weapon before it fired. Admiral Luther, now scarred and bitter from his last defeat, stood aboard the Council's new flagship, the Valen Prime. His orders were clear. "Defend the array until it fires," he said. "Earth will finally know what fear sounds like." The human fleet arrived quietly. There were no warnings, no messages. They came from the shadows of Jupiter's moons, using the planet's magnetic field to hide their approach. The black ships spread out, forming a thin line across the vast darkness. On the Valon Prime, the alarms began to sound. "Multiple objects approaching from the outer orbit," an officer shouted. Luther stared at the screen. "How many?" "Unknown, Admiral. They have no signatures, no heat, no light. They're using stealth." Luther clenched his fists. "It's them." Inside his ship, Commander Davis watched the enemy positions on a holographic map. "They've surrounded the array with 6 fleets," he said. "We can't reach it without drawing their fire." "We'll never get close in open combat," Harris replied. "They'll destroy us before we're within range." Davis was quiet for a moment. "Then we won't fight in open space." He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare the shadow protocol. I want every ship to vanish from their sensors completely." Within seconds, the human fleet broke formation. The ships powered down their main engines, drifting silently through the darkness. The alien fleet scanned the area but saw nothing. For the next hour, space around Jupiter seemed calm. The alien fleets waited, growing restless. Then, one by one, their ships began to malfunction. Targeting systems froze, power grids flickered, and communications failed. "What's happening?" an alien officer cried out. Luther's eyes widened. "They're inside our systems. They're using our own relays against us." He was right. The humans had hacked into the alien communication network weeks before, waiting for the right moment. Now they used it to send false signals, tricking alien ships into firing on each other. Explosions lit the dark sky around the array. Commander Davis gave the order. "Now move!" The Echo Black ships accelerated at once. Hidden behind debris and false signals, they rushed toward the Dawnbreaker array. Alien ships tried to stop them, but their targeting systems could not lock on. The human flagship, Silent Horizon, led the charge. It fired its railguns at the array's outer shield. The impacts shook the massive structure, tearing through the first layer of armor. On the Valon Prime, Luther watched in shock as his fleets fell apart. "Destroy that ship!" he roared. "All power to the main batteries." But before the Valon Prime could fire, 3 human interceptors darted through the chaos. They launched small kinetic charges that slammed into the alien battleship's reactors. The blast tore open the hull and fire spread through its decks. Inside, Luther struggled to stand. "Even if you destroy me," he shouted into the void, "the array will fire." And he was right. Deep inside the Dawnbreaker array, massive energy chambers began to glow. The weapon was charging. The humans could see the bright light forming in its core, aimed straight at Earth. "5 minutes until it fires," said Harris, panic in her voice. Davis looked calm. "Not if we overload it first." He ordered all ships to redirect fire to the array's energy conduits. Every railgun and missile focused on one narrow point. The impacts shook the weapon, but it continued to charge. Then Davis gave his final command: "Activate Mirror Beam." From the far side of the moon, a hidden satellite array aligned with the Dawnbreaker's position. It had been built secretly decades ago as a last defense. Using reflected solar energy and the planet's magnetic field, it created a beam of focused plasma that struck the weapon's charging core. The result was immediate. The Dawnbreaker array began to shake violently. Alarms blared across every alien ship. "Containment failure," screamed one of the alien engineers. "The energy is unstable." Admiral Luther stared at the weapon as its light grew brighter and brighter. "No," he whispered. The Dawnbreaker exploded. A massive wave of white light spread through space, blinding every sensor. For a moment, the universe was silent again. Then the light faded, leaving behind only debris. The weapon was gone. On the silent horizon, cheers filled the bridge. Harris smiled for the first time in months. "We did it," she said. Davis didn't smile. He looked out at the wreckage and said softly, "They won't forgive this." In the Galactic Council chamber, silence replaced anger. The High Speaker watched the holograms of the destroyed array. His eyes were cold. "They have gone too far," he said. "Now we will end them not with fleets, but with fear." Across the galaxy, propaganda began to spread. Every alien world received new broadcasts, images of human ships, human faces, and the destruction of the Council's greatest weapon. The message was clear. The humans were dangerous, but Earth was not done yet. Commander Davis had already prepared the next move. His agents, using captured alien tech, infiltrated the Council's networks. Within days, alien citizens began seeing a different message on their screens. The truth. They saw the Council's lies, their invasions, and the deaths they caused. Civil unrest spread like wildfire. The Council's power began to crumble from within. Commander Davis watched the chaos unfold and said, "They started this war to make us speak. Soon they will wish we had stayed silent." And as the stars burned quietly above, the world prepared for the final strike. The day when Earth would speak one last time. The stars above the Milky Way burned quietly, hiding the storm that was about to begin. Weeks had passed since the destruction of the Dawnbreaker array. The galaxy had changed. Every alien world now whispered about Earth, about the humans who came from the silent planet at the edge of the stars. The Galactic Council's lies were falling apart. The citizens of dozens of worlds no longer believed the old stories of human aggression. They had seen the truth broadcasted through their networks, humans defending, not attacking. The Council's order was collapsing from within. In orbit above Earth, Commander Davis stood before a massive holographic display aboard the Silent Horizon. Red dots showed the last known positions of the alien fleets that had survived the Dawnbreaker's explosion. Many had retreated. Some had gone rogue. But a few remained loyal to the High Speaker, and they were gathering near the Council's homeworld. Davis knew what that meant. They were preparing for a final war. Harris entered the command room, her uniform covered in dust and burn marks. She had been working for days without rest, coordinating intelligence operations across the colonies. "It's confirmed," she said quietly. "The Council's elite fleets are massing near Orion's Gate, over 5,000 ships." Davis nodded slowly. "And the High Speaker?" "Still alive," she replied. "He's calling for a crusade. Says Earth is a danger to all life in the galaxy." Davis stared at the hologram. "Then it's time to end his voice." The Silent Horizon turned toward the dark void beyond Mars. The human fleets were no longer small. After their victories, old allies had returned. Colonies once forgotten, stations once silent. The fleets of Mars, Luna, and Titan joined with Earth's command ships. Together they formed the largest human armada ever seen. Thousands of black vessels glided through space like shadows, silent and united. But Davis knew strength alone wasn't enough. "They outnumber us 10-1, Harris reminded him. "I know," he said. "That's why we won't fight where they expect." He turned to his strategist, an older officer named Grant. "Send the signal to all fleets. Operation Echo begins now." At that moment, deep within alien space, confusion spread among the Council's fleets. Human signals appeared everywhere, near nebulae, asteroid belts, and abandoned colonies. Dozens of false fleets emerged, each broadcasting realistic signatures of massive human war groups. The aliens panicked. Their scanners showed hundreds of targets, but none were real. The humans had filled the network with illusions. On the Council's flagship, the High Speaker's voice cut through the chaos. "Ignore the false readings," he roared. "The real human fleet is still coming. Find them." But it was already too late. The true fleet had taken a hidden route through an ancient wormhole near Vega, one the Council believed had collapsed centuries ago. The Silent Horizon led the way, emerging directly behind the enemy's formation. The first strike came like thunder in the void. Human railguns fired bursts of tungsten rounds that tore through alien cruisers before they could turn. Plasma torpedoes followed, shattering shields and igniting reactors. The Council's ships tried to regroup, but they were unprepared. The humans had attacked from their blind spot, the side facing their own homeworld. Inside the Silent Horizon, Harris monitored the battle feed. "They're scattering," she said. "Their lines are broken," Davis nodded. "Good, keep pushing through." "We take their command station, we end the war." As the battle raged, human Marines boarded enemy vessels, disabling weapon systems and capturing commanders. The Council's fleets fell apart faster than anyone expected. For every alien ship destroyed, 3 more surrendered. Still, the High Speaker's fleet remained. His flagship, the Solar Dominion, was the size of a city, armed with weapons capable of cracking moons. He refused to flee. "Bring the Silent Horizon forward," Davis ordered. The 2 ships faced each other across the black sky. The Solar Dominion opened fire first. Massive beams of light cut through space, striking human cruisers and tearing them apart. The explosions lit the darkness like lightning. Davis steadied himself as the shockwaves rocked the ship. "Fire all main cannons." The Silent Horizon's railguns unleashed a storm of kinetic shells, hammering the alien flagship's armor. The 2 ships exchanged fire, their weapons blazing brighter than any star. Inside the Solar Dominion, the High Speaker stood surrounded by flickering lights and alarms. "You think your small world can challenge us?" he shouted over the comm channel. "We built the galaxy. We decide who belongs in it," Davis responded calmly. "You built an empire of fear. We built silence. And silence outlasts everything." The final volley came from both ships at once. The Horizon's mirror beam, modified from the old defense system, pierced the Dominion's shield. At the same moment, the Dominion's superlaser struck the Horizon's left wing. Both ships trembled as energy surged through them. Harris screamed, "Core breach in progress!" Davis didn't hesitate. "Divert all power to the main cannon. One last shot!" The crew obeyed. The Silent Horizon glowed white as the final charge built up. The mirror beam fired again, straight into the Dominion's bridge. The blast split the ship in half. A second later, the Horizon's reactor overloaded. The ship exploded in a silent flash of light, taking both flagships with it. For a moment, space was quiet again. The human and alien fleets stopped firing. All they could see was the glowing wreckage drifting through the stars. On Earth, the transmission came through minutes later. The signal carried the image of the explosion and the words, "Operation Echo complete." The people of Earth stood in silence. No one cheered. They only watched the sky, knowing that their defenders had given everything to end the war. But the story didn't end there. In the ruins of the Council's homeworld, surviving members gathered to rebuild their power. Yet something had changed. Worlds that once obeyed them now refused their commands. The lies had been exposed, and the galaxy was no longer afraid. Weeks later, on a small moon orbiting Titan, a new meeting took place. Leaders from dozens of planets, both human and alien, came together. They sat in a simple chamber made of steel and glass, without gold or symbols. A young ambassador from Earth spoke first. "We were silent for a reason," she said. "Not because we were weak, but because we wanted peace. The Council forced us to speak, and when we did, we spoke with strength. Let that lesson be remembered." There was no applause, only quiet understanding. The galaxy had been scarred, but it had also changed. The age of fear was over. Far away, drifting among the wreckage of the final battle, fragments of the Silent Horizon floated through the void. One of its data cores remained intact, pulsing faintly. Inside, it was Commander Davis's final message, recorded moments before the explosion. "If you're hearing this," his voice said, calm as ever, "then we won. Not because we were stronger, but because we refused to bow. The galaxy will forget our names, but it will never forget what Earth did when it was insulted." The message repeated endlessly, its signal faint but steady, echoing through the stars. And for the first time in history, the galaxy listened to Earth, not in fear, but in respect. From then on, whenever alien travelers passed by the quiet blue planet, they no longer called it dangerous. They called it sacred, the world that stayed silent until the universe went too far.